February 12, 2014.
So Beth invited me to go.
I'll let the show
Put together my first went to quilt top. And so we're going to another class on the 22nd.
Wait for Steve to come back. As soon as he's back,
I may not make
me and
a
go.
quilt or two, but at least I know I can operate the sewing machine now and I can make a quilt if I want.
Did you guys try to do what?
We're going to do that and they extended it a week ago. So we're probably going to leave and drive down the freeway and cross to hit 101 and come back to the Brooklyn.
I'd like to call the meeting to order.
That's been a night.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming. The Lookingglass Board meeting, February 12th, 2014. Anybody like to offer an invocation tonight? Carol's not here. Roll call. Risa.
Yep.
George.
Here.
Bob. Jerry.
Here.
Steve. Here. I'd like to introduce, we have a guest with us tonight, Susan Shepard. Susan is helping us with the financials for the district. She's here to give us a little bit of an update on phase 1. We'll see how that goes. Item 4. We have a resignation to announce. Kent Little has chosen to resign from the board and submitted his letter of resignation. The resignation is under record, and we are going to vote to accept that tonight or not accept that. So I need a motion for that, if we will.
I'll make a motion to accept his resignation.
We have a motion and a second for accepting the resignation of Kent Little. All those in any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Discussion.
There was a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
Yes,
understand Kent has asked you to read his resignation.
that's correct, but I'm choosing not to because we don't have time to rebut everything that's contained in a resignation letter, and we are currently under the scrutiny of attorneys. So we're choosing just to put that of record. If the people would like to have that information, you're welcome to a copy, or we can call some form of a meeting to discuss that. But we don't have time tonight to discuss the items in it.
It's not very long.
I know it's not very long, but it's all incorrect too, so, sorry.
Well, he's asked me to read it, so you're going to allow me to read it.
We don't have time to rebut the items in that.
I see.
Oh, no.
Why not? Because we have a pretty extensive agenda to get through.
So does that mean the public has no input tonight?
The public has
Is there
input
any public
tonight.
input then?
Then we would like to hear it.
Go ahead and read it.
It was addressed to the board, chief, firefighters, and Lookingglass Valley. After giving it much thought, I have come to realize that I need to resign my position on the board of the Lookingglass Fire District. When I accepted the position, I came ready to join the team and be a contributing, productive member. I came eager to do my job, committed to doing all that was asked of me, and spending the time needed to fulfill my duties. In some ways, I was slow in getting my work done as I learned new software and how the books of the district were being recorded. I basically had to learn everything on my own because none of the directors present had done the job. But I caught up, paid the bills, recorded the transactions, and reconciled accounts. I turned all that over in reasonably good shape and up to date. I have done my work with honesty and integrity to the best of my abilities and time. I am resigning now because I have been verbally attacked by Risa Briggs with the apparent tacit approval of Bob Russell and George Coombs. I have basically been accused of mishandling funds in my payment of the electric bill from Douglas Electric Co-op. I find the attack completely beyond the scope of anything reasonable, and I am unable to work effectively with these people any longer. I believe the direction that they are choosing in their leadership of the district is poorly chosen, and I can no longer support it. It is divisive and counterproductive to a good working relationship between the district and the department. We have an excellent group of volunteers in our fire department, and I hope they are not negatively impacted by the board's direction. Sincerely, Kent Miller.
Thank you, Yvonne. Would anybody like to comment?
What did you say that you said bad things about him? Would you be telling me that? I remember classes you. Verbally attacked. I would like to know what the verbal attack was.
Well, they don't have time to rebut it tonight.
Oh, no, we now that we've read that, we can answer that if you'd like, if Lisa would like to comment to it, since it's
I would
a,
like to know what the verbal attack was.
there wasn't one, but Lisa should answer that.
I
If
was
she chooses to.
disappointed in Kent's lack of professionalism and the fact that 1 year ago, I sat in this very room out where you are, and Steve Hamill was treasurer at that time, and I was looking at the spreadsheet of the bills that had been paid, and Amy was helping him, but I noticed that a Douglas Electric bill had gotten a late fee. That did not sit well with me, because I'm a taxpayer here too, and that's mishandling the funds, as far as I'm concerned. And I made the comment then, and Kent knew that. Back in November, we asked him to set up a way to base pay or pay ahead the Douglas Electric bill so that we would not get any more late fees. He was supposed to have had that done by January 1st. We were informed later in January that there was a late fee from the Douglas Electric bill. I was not pleased. I asked Kent, since he was going to go down and pay it, have him waive the late fee, since I'd already talked to Todd Muncy, and I had read that letter in evidence, like I said, several months ago. Consequently, when he went in, he did not have him waive the late fee. He sent out an email saying that basically he didn't want to bother because it might be later on, maybe he was confusing it with UBW, where we might have a bigger bill and we should wait if we have something larger that we would get dinged for, and that's not how it works. And when you mishandle the funds, and I don't care if it's a penny, not on my watch. I went down to Douglas Electric, they waived the late fee. It wasn't that hard to do. I simply responded back to Kent in an email saying how disappointed I was, and I still am. Because to take the people's trust and betray it is not something I will tolerate.
Or it is imperfection. How much was the late fee?
$2.25. And all he had to do was, one, take care of it back in November.
And you got upset over $2.25.
I got
This
upset.
department is pissed away with it.
I got
More
upset over the principle that it was happening again. Happening again. And I'm not going to sit here, I'm not going to sit here and say every time something like that happens.
Is that the only verbal attack against him?
It wasn't
It
verbal.
wasn't even verbal.
It was written.
It was written in an email.
I would have loved
But it was
to
also
have.
verbal.
No, it was not.
No, I would have loved to have talked to him and
There was
asked
never
him
a verbal
why.
conversation.
Well, then what was the verbal attack?
There wasn't
There
one.
wasn't one.
That's the point.
But I would love to have asked him why, first of all, he didn't.
Because he was very good at his job. Taking care of it and not having any training.
Karen.
Yes, I know Karen.
In 6 months, we have not gotten a treasurer's report from him.
He is okay.
Not one treasurer's
Not
report
one.
in 6 months.
What's he been bringing to the meeting?
Nothing.
Nothing.
He goes in and tries to print out a profit and loss.
No.
That's all we've gotten. We did not get anything that resembled a treasurer's report until the day he resigned.
So what is your expectation of the treasurer's report?
I gave him 3 examples of Stuart Kramer's, Steve Hamill's, and David Hatchett's, ones we've seen here that have been on the table for anybody to pick up and read during the meetings. He would not do any of them.
So are you guys superior to him?
No.
No, not at all.
No.
He has a job to do,
He's not
Yvonne.
meeting the expectations of you guys? Is
He's
that
not
what
meeting
this is
the,
about?
he's not meeting the rules.
Do you think that the previous treasurer's reports were incorrect and not a reasonable basis by which we should perform? That's what we gave him, and that's what we helped him, and that's what we said we would hire someone to bring in. We had a guy to come in for free on the computer. He had
hire.
all of the assistance that we could
You're
give
gonna hire.
for him to do that. And all he had to do was copy what Stuart Kramer had started, what David Hatchett continued, and we didn't get that.
Did you guys bring one tonight for us?
Did we do what?
Did you guys bring one for us tonight? Since you know how to do it, do you have that financial report?
Who
You're
said we
expecting-
know how to do it?
Well, you guys are expecting it. If he doesn't know what to do, maybe you should show him what to do.
I asked him at one time if he needed to learn the program, like Bob said, either Taj or I think Susan Shepherd could have helped him also, or if he wanted to take a class in QuickBooks, if the district would pay for it. He never responded. He never responded.
I still see it as you guys thinking he didn't meet your expectations.
We have a very simple outline in the procedural document. It says what is expected. There are 4 items that were on that. Do you have that old one? Oh, I might have that old one.
I'd like a copy of what is expected of each of you.
I'm going to read it to you. The treasury report shall include the following: total of each account, the number and amounts of the deposits, the number of bills paid, as well as a listing of any credits and debits, and the total amount of bills paid designated towards equipment or operations administration. That's it?
Is that the current one? Is,
No, that's the old one. This is the only one that was in effect when Kent was
So
here.
what did we do? We did.
What,
No,
do
he
you have
didn't.
what he did
He-
bring to the meeting?
He didn't reconcile the checking account. Okay? There was no verbal assault as he's stating here.
I disagree with that. I read the email, and I responded to the email to each of you, and none of you replied back to my response.
I never got yours.
I responded to Kent directly.
I never got yours.
I'll read you the email. If we're going to go over this, we might as well have everything on the
I
table.
believe it. I don't have time for this. Finish it. To kindergarten.
This is the email that Risa sent to Kent in response to his comments as to why he didn't accomplish the account that we were trying to set up with the electric company, which would have been a monthly standard account. We pay the same amount every month for 11 months. 12th month, we'd make it up either plus or minus. That was in the November meeting. Didn't happen in December, didn't happen in January. We got the late notice. Risa had already taken care of the late notice. All he had to do was give them a call and say, hey, we're not going to do this. He chose to not do that.
That's not correct. He said he tried to contact Todd, was it, or whatever?
Wesley?
Yes. He tried to contact him, and he wasn't in the office when he attempted to do that. And he was willing to cover the expense of the late fee by not taking a reimbursement for something he personally purchased. I had offered to do the same thing for not taking the reimbursement, and nobody replied back to that.
Nobody replied back. That's right, because I do not do business by email. I do business in person or on the phone, and not by email. So it's as simple as that.
Obviously, because you don't want to keep a written record of communications.
Accusations like that are very inappropriate. If you'd
I
like
think
to-
that Risa's accusation, although Kent called it verbal, it was in writing. I think that's a matter of semantics. I
Let me
also
read it.
consider what she had written in that email to be a vicious attack.
Well, we're going to
That
read
was
it.
my
Let
own
everybody
personal
judge for themselves
characterization.
if this is vicious or not. Kent, this is one of the most irresponsible excuses I have ever had the displeasure to read. We, the board, are entrusted with the monies of this district. We are fiscally responsible for every single penny. If you do not want to take this seriously, then I think there's a major problem, don't you? This simply should not have been an issue. Back in November, I read into the meeting minutes that you were supposed to start the ball rolling on Douglas Electric being an auto pay. What part of that did you not understand? If you could not do it, then you should have designated someone else or asked for help, etc. If there was a form that every board member needed to sign, like the signature cards for the credit union, then you should have brought it to the December or at least the January regular board meeting. This is unacceptable in every sense to me, Risa. That was the verbal attack.
And if you put emphasis on the all capitalized words, it would not sound like you read it just then. It was in an attacking manner. If you put the emphasis where she did. Absolutely. And that's how I'm sure he took it, because it wasn't just red, there was capital letters, and y'all know what capital letters mean.
Yeah.
It means I'm upset.
You need your heart.
That's correct.
And Kent is blameless in this?
Well, I see Kent as a pretty gentle person.
That's not what I asked.
Yeah, he's harmless.
He's blameless in this.
Yeah, he's blameless.
He didn't have anything to do with it. None of this is his
There are
fault.
two
Absolutely,
different
he maybe didn't
issues.
do what you wanted him to do, but you
It's
are,
not-
you have no more authority.
It's not
over
what
this
we wanted
than
him
you
to
wanted.
do, it's what he was asked to do.
And don't single out,
He
wait a
doesn't
second.
need
No, this can't,
another
we're not
board
bantering this
member.
back and forth.
He doesn't need another board member to reprimand him. You guys are all equal.
That's exactly right.
So nobody should
And-
be writing emails like this to each other. You should sit down and talk.
This
to them.
email came after an awful lot of other issues. And it was just to the point, you people don't see what's happened. You're not sitting up here. You don't deal with this on a daily basis. All you guys do is you're sitting out there looking in. It's real easy to discover the things that you think are wrong. We have tried since the day that Kent came in here, all of us have sat down. We brought people in to help get this computer going, to help get the books going. We've offered help. We've done everything. And since day one, Kent had a hard time here. He and I talked about it. It was not a good fit. But he wanted to keep it going and wanted to keep trying. And when this happened, it was like the straw that broke the camel's back. Because you're exactly right. There are 5 of us up here, and each one of us is supposed to do 1/5 of the work of this district. And that's how it's supposed to work. And that isn't how it was working. And Kent came in here when he could. He was dedicated. He did exactly what he thought he could do, and he tried his best. And I don't fault him for that. What I don't agree with is the way this letter was written. The tone of it is totally incorrect. This didn't happen this way at all. This is not a verbal attack. What this is incredible frustration of trying to get one individual to do the job he committed to do. And that's all it was. And it wouldn't make any difference whether this was a baseball team or a bunch of district guys or guys sitting out there on those pieces of equipment. Each person has to pull their weight, period. And that's all we tried to do. And that has not happened on this board. And that was where this happened.
And there was no discussion in a public meeting about if he was not following through on his responsibilities, what he needed to do.
Of course there was no discussion in a public meeting. Why embarrass the man in front of the public?
Well, he also has the option to request a private meeting.
He does.
And he was not
He can do that.
he was not told anything about that.
There was no disciplinary action.
Bob, I'm at this time going to also submit my resignation. I know you need to have a vote on Kent's. Did somebody get an extra 2 copies of it?
No, just have one.
Well, we'll take this up in a second. Let's finish Kent's issue. Is there any other discussion or questions you'd like to ask? Since we got this thing open, we might as well put everything on the table. Yvonne?
No, I think I understand it all.
Okay?
I have a question,
Okay.
and I'd like to address it to the audience.
There has to
And
be
that
a
is-
vote
He's
of
still
acceptance.
I have a
What do
question.
you want? Go ahead, Teresa.
Okay, I would like to ask everybody to tell me how much money you think we should waste on things if we're not careful. How much is okay? I need an answer.
None of it. Well, none of it should be wasted, but I would like to make a comment about that. Is what I see happening is our tax dollars are not being spent on Steve's budget. They're being spent on your needs and your desires so far. He is having some of it spent on his so far, whatever he's asking for. But I've never seen a board spend money on their own agenda. That money, Steve,
What money,
out his
what
budget,
agenda
Steve addressed.
money are you talking about?
What money?
Yeah, I need a clarification.
The money you're spending on an audit, the money you're spending on a possible accountant to advise you guys how to do things if you need to. That's all board stuff. It's not fire department stuff. That budget is Steve's budget for his needs.
We've always had an accountant. They spent over $9,000 with Nooner, Davidson, and Cooley in 2012.
That's right.
That's not us.
That's not for an advisor like you guys want to do. You want to, those are for the audits.
We're not,
You have
we're
to-
not asking for an
Yeah.
audit, or an advisor, for an accountant.
What's on the agenda tonight? What is
Well,
that?
we're talking about different things such as you have an accountant look over, if you do a self-review, for instance, which saves you several $1,000s.
Well, the meetings I've been to have discussed in case you need to ask any questions about things. Not,
Well, sometimes you have to ask, or sometimes you have to have a self-review looked at by an accountant.
sure.
That's state law.
Sure.
That's encumbered from the Department of Revenue and, you know, those type of things. And so we're not having an accountant like Nooner and Davidson again. We're not spending that kind of
What's
money.
Susan doing?
She's doing an audit.
Okay.
There's real valid reasons for the
I
audit.
think that's personal reasons.
No,
I think so.
No.
That's my opinion.
Well, that's fine, and you just got recorded on all these cameras, and it's your opinion.
That's very good.
You're holding us at fault, and we'll just cap this, as the previous board spent nearly $10,000 worth of audits in 1 year for whatever reason. And we are now sitting here doing a self-evaluation as far as, so the audit situation is put aside. We don't have to even spend the $700 that Tom Davidson said he would normally charge. And we're definitely not up in the bracket of the $3,000 per audit that the previous boards approved to pay. So just right off the bat, we have saved this district $3,000 a year in the way of an audit. And what they spent in 1 year is 30% more than our contract that covers what Susan is researching from 2005 to date.
So exactly what are you in hopes of finding with this audit?
We are not in hopes of finding anything. We're trying to get onto solid ground to where all the numbers add up, which they still do not, so that we know exactly where we're beginning, because that's what the state mandates us to do. We have to sit here and know that where we start is on solid ground financially. And that's what Susan is trying to do for us, and that's it. We're not looking for smoking guns. We're not looking to go after anybody. If that is what you think, the purpose behind this, you're absolutely wrong. Because we have to be on solid ground here, and we are not. The books don't add up. Numbers don't add up. Audits don't add up. And when you have those many things that are questioned, you've got to somehow get to a bottom line that says, here's the answer.
And nobody
Then I
can
guess
figure
Susan
out how.
tonight can tell us what is not.
Nobody can figure out where it started.
Pardon me?
With all the audits and everything, nobody can find it.
Like I say something?
Sure, Joe.
All of the audits that we received from Nooner and Davidson, every one of them was alike in 2012. I don't care which one you take, they were identical. They had an audit 6 weeks apart. It was the same audit that they did 6 weeks ago. Why did they pay $3,000 for the one 6 weeks later?
The crowd asked for that audit after Lori resigned, is why, because you guys are sitting out here demanding.
We can't get into an argument, but that wasn't what the crowd asked for. The crowd asked for an independent audit, which is you have someone other than the auditor that you're using do it. That never happened. But this conversation is surprising, frankly, because we're looking at that particular CPA spent over $20,000 in the amount of money that was charged to this district. And it was approved by this board. It wasn't the CPA's deal. He's not the bad guy. He sent what he wanted. They said that's good, and they paid the bill. Now, just because he admitted to us that it was less than that, it would have been less than that, I suppose you can't fault him for it being more. But we have chosen to go the other route, to where we fall under that $150,000 cap number. We don't have enough money that comes into this district that requires us to have an audit by someone such as Tom Davidson. So we have reduced that number dramatically from $3,000 a year down to somewhere in the neighborhood of, let's say it's $500 we end up spending. That's pretty good savings. And we're doing this everywhere. And yet, for whatever reason, Yvonne, you don't think that that's acceptable or a good idea.
But you still think you're not on solid ground?
We are not on solid ground. The subject I just discussed is just what we have to do on a yearly basis for our report. By the time Susan is done, we should be on really, really solid ground. We should know exactly where we stand. We should know
What's the day you can prove that?
Pardon me?
What's the day you can prove that?
What's the day?
The date that you can prove you're on solid ground?
When she's finished. She's not, when she is finished. She'll be able to tell you where she is so far and where we're going to be. We don't have a completion date. We have no idea of a completion date yet. We are still trying to find invoices, corroborating information, you name it. We're trying to find it.
I mean, 6 months, a year? Come on.
I need to answer her first, since
okay.
We're trying to do this within the next 60 days.
Okay.
Okay? Is that good enough for you? That seem reasonable? Karen?
Okay.
Yeah, reason.
Yeah, because part of the problem is with all of the books and the accounts and things that have been done over the years, that they were not reconciled, and there's never been a bank statement, you know, where you sit down
But
and
there's been previous audits.
well, there's the problem.
And the audits don't add up.
But
And they don't
you're,
have it.
in other words, this board is paying for mistakes that happened way back.
Exactly, that's exactly right.
Absolutely.
We're
Not
trying-
mistakes, but
We're just,
Well, obviously,
interesting.
if it was, yes, it's maybe a technicality, but
Yeah.
it's still a mistake.
And Susan, we've been told you're not a CPA.
No, I'm not. I declared
No.
that in the letter.
And we knew that when we
I've
hired
only
her.
done books for 11 years and
The same.
fire books, which are different things.
Yes, Bruce?
So, I've been at almost every meeting. I missed 2 in the last 2 years. As I understand it, how do I say this? You've received letters from the state, from the Attorney General, et cetera, telling you there's problems here, there's problems here, there's problems here, and you're trying to reconcile all those problems that you found letters from the past board and have been sent to you, right? Is that what that's the way I understand this process to have been started.
To a degree, that's correct.
Okay.
And
There
so
was one letter that came from the Department of Revenue, is that true?
there is one actual physical letter that came from the Department of Revenue, Secretary of State's office.
And that was correct.
That was corrected to a degree, that's correct.
Now, can I ask you something? June 30th, David Hatch cleaned out the books, gave you a statement of every account, every dollar we had. So that, to me, would be the start. I mean, we know what it was in every account on June 30th. So that's the foundation right there. You knew where you started.
no, that's not true.
No, it's not. We know what, if I may, we know what's in every account, but we don't know how that money got there. We don't know how it was established. We don't know whether it came from tax money. We have no idea where that money came from. And we have no idea whether it came from money that it should have come from. In other words, when you take tax money, there is definite, specific, written reasons as to why that money was acquired. And that money has to go to those reasons and be used for those purposes. And we have to get all these ducks in a row in order for people like the Department of Revenue to agree that where we are sounds like it makes sense. And that's all we're trying to do. And no more and no less.
And how much is the differentiation
How much is what?
that you can't account for?
We don't.
There is no such thing. We don't know
We don't
if
know.
we can't account for or if we have more than we can account for. That's how this is.
Part of the problem was the.
And you don't know what the hell you're doing.
No, part of the problem was the commingling of the funding, okay? Because when you take the levy money, for instance, or when we had the levy, some of it was for equipment, some of it was for operations. But it got mishmashed, it just got confusing, and it was not done right. It was not put into the right accounts or the right amounts. It's bad.
And you've done the homework to get Susan started on that? Is that how that? I mean,
We're
you've
working
done-
on it together, yes. We're
But-
still
but- and the
plowing
reason
through.
You hired her because you found all this stuff? that
We
was
haven't
wrong?
found all of it yet.
No.
But you found things wrong that you said we need more help. Is that?
Oh,
all
boy.
the things?
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely,
So,
major.
so you went into it looking for things?
No, we're trying, like I said,
Answers.
You didn't go
We
into
went into it
it
looking
just
for-
like, okay, that accounts say we have this much in here, this much in here. This is where we start because this is.
How far back are you
more,
going?
and-
One person at a time, Karen. Yvonne has the floor.
I mean, you had the money. It didn't match up to what was in the account? What it said you should have? I mean, what you saw that was in the account is what you had, correct?
Supposedly, that's correct.
Well, no, it is.
No, we had
That's what
accounts
you
that we
got.
couldn't even find that were noted, highlighted, and no evidence of. We have accounts that there are evidence of, and we have no statements for. We have 8 accounts that this district has had record of, and we only have statements for 3 of them.
And
In
the bank
effect.
wouldn't provide any of that for you.
You what?
The bank wouldn't provide any of that for you.
The bank has provided that for us, but we had to go get it.
Right.
Okay, well, so when you start looking at those are what raises questions. When the questions got raised, they were questions that were above our capabilities to answer. So we started looking for someone that could help us do that, and our search ended up with Susan. Yes, Karen.
How far back are you going?
2005, to the beginning of the option levies,
Good.
because that's the money that was
Then I'm
generated.
off the hook.
You're off the hook, yes. From a managerial standpoint, Karen, you're off the hook. Good. That's exactly right. Jim, you had a question?
Yes, and I'm really sorry we're talking about this because I really want, you must be Susan.
Okay.
I really wanted to come here, but anyway, since we're on the subject. What I've heard you talk about so far is from 2005 to 2006, I have documents that the numbers came from the county. The county is, or does send the district every penny that we receive. Is that not true?
Yep,
Okay, it comes through the county.
yep, we've got that.
From 2005, 2006, or to current, the group that most of these people here were part of, except our chief, never really, I guess, saw those. But every penny, Mr. Hatch did these. We had a small group, I don't know, have you explained anything to Mrs. Shepherd here?
I just don't know them better than
Okay.
them.
Mr. Hatch went and found every penny that came into this district. And he went through and every penny came in and every penny that went out, it's all here. Whether it was spent right or not from the previous board, you know what? Who's asking our district for that information? The state? Do they care?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Who's asking?
Basically, when we take over this board, when we're in July, we basically have to say that we agree with the money that we're dealing with.
Okay,
Then just agree.
the accounts,
No,
Mr. Hatch had the money, everything was identified July the 1st for you guys.
Jim, nobody's arguing with you, but we don't know that. We never got a report.
So you're worried about $2 and something, but you're spending all this money
Yeah.
for something that volunteer people, that I'm not for sure your background and don't take nothing personal here, but the gentleman that did this was the auditor for LA County. he kind of knows what he does, okay? And it didn't cost our district a dime, okay? Nobody's asked for any of this. Apparently, because, do you guys have an agenda? Do you guys pass out agendas, or how are we supposed to get agendas?
We haven't even gotten to the agenda, really. We're gonna
No,
wait on that for.
Isn't there a copy of the agenda for the public to look at?
Usually, we forgot to put them out.
Okay, well,
Mike,
the whole bottom point is, here it is, 8 months later, and you're worried about what happened prior to you taking the board. July the 1st, you guys are responsible for our current budget, and everything was good here.
We don't know
Yeah,
that, Jim.
there's-
You're saying that it's good. We don't know that.
That's because you guys haven't looked at any of these, you never asked.
We've looked through all, we know all the tax documents, and everything is pretty much in line. The money that was sent from the tax department to here, except for a few minor glitches, is pretty much
So
substantiated.
why are we spending all this money with this lady here?
Because
You
the
know, I-
books don't add up. The
Well,
books
we
don't
went
add
through
up.
those books, well,
You did, yeah, Susan.
sure, go ahead.
How much are you spending on me?
Well, I don't really know, up to $6,500?
Up to,
Up to. Where are we into you right now?
I don't know.
I'm sure you didn't drive down here for free tonight.
I have a question for
You know, this is,
I probably did.
That's Susan.
I probably
She
did.
wasn't.
you shouldn't have
I'm
to.
president of the Oregon Fire Service Office Administrators.
And that
Okay.
This is what we
We
do.
only one at a time, please, Yvonne.
We care about fire districts. We want to get you guys on a good path. From what I've seen, I don't know what you've been presented before, but it's not a solid foundation for procedures to keep going.
Susan, if we may, let's just wait until you give your presentation.
That would be the board to set policy if something,
We have set policy. That policy is that we're not going to go forward unless we feel we're on solid foundation.
Point of
okay,
order.
how am I going to,
Wait,
you know?
Jim? Barry?
I'm raising a point of order, Robert's rules, that needs to take
Go right
precedence
ahead.
right now. We've really gotten away, we had a motion on the, that was made and seconded, and it needs to be acted on. All of this discussion, while it's very important, is really getting away from the motion that needs to be addressed.
That's correct, and we'll note that, but however, this lays the foundation for why we're sitting here talking about the resignation of Kent Little. All this has to do with the same topic, because it's just how it is. The people sitting in this room right now are getting a feel for how much things have had to be reviewed, checked, questioned.
I'm going to interrupt you here, Bob.
No, you can't interrupt me.
Yeah,
No.
well, I'm going to, because
Jim, if you
we
don't,
sat out here as a group.
Jim, this doesn't work, buddy.
We're down to
Jim.
3 board members right here.
That's how it works.
You
You-
ran off,
No.
no, Bob. There are 4 people now that you guys have removed from this board.
We didn't.
And
We didn't
you
remove
guys
one of
are
them,
being a
Jim.
community. This
We
is
didn't
all about
remove one
community.
of
Guess
them.
what? Where's
We
the
didn't
community
remove one of these
input?
people.
What
They
you guys have
chose.
been doing since July? None.
That's an interesting statement. Which 4 people have these people removed from the board? You made a statement, just back it up.
You got David Hatch.
He wasn't removed,
And
he
now 2
resigned.
of them.
He resigned.
Why is
They
that?
all resigned for the same
Why
reason.
do we have board members resigning?
Ask an angry little man.
Because it's what?
We have asked him.
They're
Ask
not
them.
removed.
Okay,
What did you get on the board?
forward.
Pardon?
What did you get on the board?
Why? Well, there's a reason I'm not on the board. I was part of this little group, and I took a lot. I paid the price for starting a little group here 2 years ago. I just found out from the fire chief the other day, the state fire marshal's not on my ass anymore, and he knew that back in March. I'm still waiting for paperwork. Okay?
Okay.
All of this stuff. So, you know, what I see here is a board that's not, they're not part, where's the community part in this?
Where are you getting involved?
Why am I getting involved?
Where are you getting involved?
Doesn't do any good.
Where am I getting involved?
Are you asking
What?
questions, or are you trying to get?
One conversation at a time here. Are you done, Jim? I mean, that's
Yeah,
about as far the
go ahead.
latitude that I'm happy to give you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
We have
Here, listen to all that.
We have not, one of the people that has resigned from this was at our cause. They resigned by choice. Jerry's resigning by choice. Kent resigned by choice. What I'd like you to tell,
I'm here by choice too.
good, we should all be here by choice. This room should be filled with people here by choice. And we get a whole lot more done.
Nobody's coming, Bob.
Stop talking so we can listen to what's going on.
We have a motion on the floor.
Well, we can go right to that. We have a motion and a second on the floor to accept Kent Little's resignation. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Was that an aye, Jerry? You still vote? Are you abstaining, or?
As far as I know, I'm still a board member because my resignation has not been accepted yet.
No, I
Isn't
just
that
said,
correct?
no, I just
I
asked
had
you how you
voted
voted.
aye in deference to Kent's wishes.
That was all I asked, Jerry.
Okay.
I just-
And for clarification, I don't know if I'm supposed to abstain or not vote with regard to my own
You're
resignation.
still a board member.
So
I suppose like any
can vote for
other election,
myself.
you can vote.
Okay.
We now have a resignation letter from Jerry Harris. We need to have the same motion to accept or not to accept.
I'll make a motion to accept this resignation.
Second.
Second, Jerry?
I'll
I
second.
like that, Jerry.
Are you going to read it to us so we can hear why he's resigning?
Would you like to read it? So that you put the emphasis on the correct locations?
I didn't capitalize anything to shout. To the board, I have great respect for the efforts of the chief and other volunteer firefighters and emergency response personnel in keeping the people and property of this community safe. I accepted an appointment to the board of directors in November 2013 after being persuaded to do so by other board members. I have done my best to fulfill the responsibilities of my position as communications director in serving the community members of this fire district. At this time, those same board members have lost confidence in my ability to carry out my responsibilities as director. Also, there's been much discord among board members, with one person making, and this is my opinion, making slanderous accusations in writing against another member. Since the increasing stress of serving on the board of directors is putting my health at risk, I am now submitting this letter as my official resignation from the board. Contrary to what the board president may have said to anyone, I previously expressed to him by phone only my intention to resign, not my actual resignation. At this time, I am turning in my keys and binder. I remind board members that they have a responsibility to change all passwords and codes for which I had access. Before being appointed to the board, I served as web manager for the district's website. If needed, I would be willing temporarily to continue as web manager while the board seeks a replacement.
Thanks, Jerry. Any comments?
There's
Question?
number 4.
My comments, Jerry and Kim both, I thought did a great job from my perspective, and we're losing a great person here. This guy has been the face of our department at the farmers market in fire prevention. He's attended meetings with me, fire chiefs meetings and stuff, and has actually volunteered all around the county to be their web managers for different forms and stuff. So I regret that he resigned. All right, are you going to resign? You or you? I just want to know, are we going to have a quorum after we're done tonight? Are we?
I'm not resigning.
Okay, thank you. That's all I want. I got a few other questions after you guys act on this thing.
Jerry, if you don't mind, can you explain how you determine that the board members have lost confidence in your ability? Which board members
From
are out?
emails questioning things I've done, and I responded back to try to explain what the situation was. Also, with regard to my handling of the mail, that was questioned. So,
And this is news to me, this whole thing that we've lost confidence in your abilities. That's just news.
that is my impression of comments that have been made to me. As I said, this letter represents my opinion of what has gone on. Okay, I don't want to argue facts about it. I'm
I was just
stating it
curious.
as my opinion.
Because I wasn't aware of any of that. I've never done anything or heard anything to that, in that
How
realm.
about the mail?
The mail situation has been a confusing situation from the beginning. Yes, there is a problem with the mail. But that has nothing to do with your abilities. It has nothing to do with our confidence in your abilities. I've never heard anything but positive things said to you, both publicly from the public, publicly from this board, and privately from this board. So I'm sorry to see you go. I really am. So we have a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor of accepting Jerry's resignation, say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
No.
We need to make a motion to, yes, Jerry?
Gary?
Motion carried, yes?
Okay.
Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it.
Keys to the mailbox and to locking cabinet are right here, and I put information, access information, passwords for the various computers and for the website and for the Google account. The YouTube account are all in a folder in the back of my top lock
Thank you.
cabinet.
I have a question.
And if I may first, Jerry, I want to appreciate your offer for helping out on a temporary basis.
Just let me know.
Thank
You know,
you very
if the
much.
board wants to vote on that, what to do with regard to that, just let me know.
Well, that's simple.
Jerry, are you still gonna do the representation of the fire department on Fridays?
I don't feel it's appropriate for me to do that anymore. For one thing, I wouldn't have access to the materials
But he
to
was there
take
every
over
Friday.
there.
At the range, promoting the fire.
I know, I appreciate that.
I just had a few questions now. Who's the treasurer and who's getting the mail? We still have the business of what department here. I just want to know what's happening. I mean, we got bills pending tonight.
Yep.
And the three of us will take care of it.
Okay.
We don't have a treasurer yet, and we don't have a replacement for Jerry yet, so we all have to share that responsibility now. Item 5, we need to approve last meeting's minutes. So
Did you get the January 8th minutes? Because Jerry said he didn't seem to receive a copy, and I sent those out on the 9th, because they're dated. I keep the date on them, so I don't know why.
I didn't see any changes.
Okay.
So
Well, I
we
mean,
need
you
a-
got them, so.
We need a motion to approve.
Okay, I make a motion to approve last month's meeting.
Well, second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Old business, the hydrant issue, is that thing still floating around the way it's always floated around?
I have not heard from anybody as far as the Craigslist ad goes, or anybody else that I've tried to track down.
I would like to make a suggestion, since this isn't going to take place until next year's budget, why don't we just table it until then?
That's fine, I still have a call in to the other Brad at UBW.
Does everybody know what we're talking about here with the hydrant, conversion of the hydrant to a real hydrant?
As part of that, the memorial deal out there, we have it primed right now. It's going to be a hammered brass finish, and then we're going to design a memorial type wall thing. The association will handle it, but we're going to, since it's a district property, we'll make sure that you guys approve the design, okay? You won't have to do anything about it.
Cool.
Is your water meter for sale, or where you get it at?
Yes. Mhm.
I have a question for the chief. Are you gonna have that powder coated on? Is that,
Right, it's going to be a hammered brass finish right now. We're going to, I have to talk to the rest of the association about how far we want to get into it, how much money and everything, so.
I'll donate to that.
Okay, item B, procedural policy. We've got the insertion for the treasurer that we voted on the last meeting. So the procedural policy is now complete with the treasurer section in there. And we can just Teresa, have you got that, the newest one? Can you just read the item under treasurer's report?
Sure.
Shall include.
The treasurer's report shall now include the following: A, totals of each account; B, financial spreadsheet; C, number and amounts of all deposits; D, adjustments made after previously approved financial report; E, list of bills to be approved for payment showing the following: vendor, account resource, account source, accountant and fund, amount, description of purchase. That's the only part that changed.
Well, can I get a motion that everybody's in agreement that that reflects what we intended?
I move that that be approved into the record.
I make a second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, Susan, you got the floor.
I don't think I want the floor.
Dare you?
I haven't seen that.
I would like to see the financials that you have.
That'll cost you every dime you're charging our district.
Okay. That's fine. What I've done, because there's nothing, I'm not, over here? Oh, I really hate this one in the video, but, let's do first things first, okay? Okay, so what I've done first is I've done just put together a board book for budget. And the reason I did this quickly is because budget's coming up, and it has the new material from the Department of Revenue, not many changes, but it gives you a little brief. And in the very front, here's the other two positions, is the budget class training that Department of Revenue puts on. Talk to Bob, and because I'm not good with directions. Apparently, Coos Bay is the closest one for you. So, but it kind of just gives you a little heads up as to budget, because you'll have problems with your budget. I had to pull over 3 times on the way over to talk to the Department of Revenue for some direction to get it back on track. It's not drastic, but we can get it there. There's just some procedures we got to do to get it there, because what was filed with the county, errors or not errors or transposition, it's wrong. And so we decide which budget we want on a website, and we'll get it together. So we're going to do that. And then this is just the great big 100 and some page one that you just leave in the district. It's kind of, I mean, it's not legalese, but it's a lot. So I don't want to write that for everybody. So, but those are for the board positions. So I guess if they change again, you can read them too. I would like to see any financials, see if they're different than what I have. What I have is I'm trying to communicate with Mr. Davidson. Sorry, I'm not thinking Nooner. And he hasn't got back to me yet. It's like a time to figure out where he got his numbers to start with. And that's one of the problems of when pretty much all those districts use I didn't even introduce myself. But anyway.
I was going to remind you in a moment. When you
Sorry, take a breath, right? Anyway, Susan Shepard, and then I'm also president of the Oregon Fire Service Office Administrators. And we do this, believe it or not. It's not all about the money. But, and we put it on a spreadsheet. I cannot, right now my spreadsheet is frustrating to tell you. That's a minimal work. Because I have review numbers, I have audit numbers, and I have P&L numbers, profit and loss. We're not meshing. That's the problem. I know money, but department budgeting and finances have to be put in the right place. It's not, you can't just go to the Department of Revenue and say, I've got $200,000 in my reserve fund. They're going, great, I don't care how you spending it, where'd you spend it? Trying to figure that out. So we'll get there, and it's coming together. It's just a spider web. One thing leads to another. Just lost my train of thought. Shoot, I'm sorry. Anyway, so when Mr. Davidson gets with me, and we can get a solid number where he started and where he got that number, and I found an error on his audit reports. His totals were the same, but his math wasn't right, but it was a hidden number that was from behind. I'm surprised Mr. Hatch didn't find that because they don't add up. And so when I called him, he goes, oh, that line didn't carry forward. Well, you know. So anyway, so his bottom number was right. So, okay, so we got that. And when we get done, you're not just paying me for an audit. We're going to be on a solid financial, that's not the right word, financial procedure base. We're going to have, when a bill comes in, here's how you're going to do it. Now, I'm going to give you guidelines. If you don't use them, that's okay. But that's what I'm going to do. Set up a process that we do. When money comes in, here's what we do. Money's deposited, here's what we do. Here's how the board approves the bills. Here's what happens the next board meeting after they say pay these bills. This is what they're going to see. And then those things will be description. Every board meeting will have the same financials to be approved. So that's a lot of, that's where we're going to end up. It's going to be a clear picture. The finance report that's sitting here, anybody, I don't know if you have kids, somebody have a kid, they can pick it up and they're going to know, oh, I get this. That's what we want is clarity. So that's where I'm coming from to help you guys. And I know let's say you pay me $600 to $500. You paid a lot more for an audit. I'm not a CPA, so I can do that. But you paid a lot more than that for a bookkeeper over the years. So, and you're getting bookkeeping from me because that's what we're gonna do. So it's kind of like, I don't want to defend it because the board approved it up to $6,500, but it's just it shouldn't be a bone of contention in the community, and I feel bad that is. But anyway, yes.
So when you get done, I could be the treasurer and follow, and I'm not a mathematical wizard, but I could follow your procedures and do the job.
Exactly. As far as do the treasurer job, you'd have to know QuickBooks. It's really simple, plain, and that's where I feel bad. I don't know how many, I didn't have Kent's phone number, how many times I said, what? Kent's not calling me, he's not calling me. And finally I said, what did he hand out at your board meeting? When she sent it to me, it was like, this is what I have on the QuickBooks. It wasn't, anyway, so, and I wanted him to call for help, and he didn't call for help, and I feel bad about that, because there's a million of us that will help if you don't know how to do it, and I could have walked you through it on the phone easily. But you have no QuickBooks. That's pretty much what QuickBooks or Springbrook is, other than cities, they'll use whatever the city uses, but that's what we all use. And if you do get a bookkeeper in, get them to join OFSOA so we can all, it's only $30 a year, and you have a raft to help. But anyway, so any other questions?
Have you been down there to gather anything?
I got what they got, and then no, but I plan on that.
Okay, because I've been told there's no resolutions and all this stuff. If you go through our files and every month's thing, there's a resolutions. And so a lot of this money that was transferred around was done by resolution, which I believe is how you're supposed to do it, and it would tell you where it went. Perfect. I've also been told that there was a U.S. bank account that has no money in it now. It used to have $100,000 in it. Well, I have in my file, my equipment file, there's a wire transfer because it was a down payment for the engine out here on the FEMA grant. So okay. There it is.
And that's what I'm doing, except that's not what your audit says. And that's not what your P&L says. And that's perfect. That's what I want. I want to get that. And I can't just go back and fix the previous years because they've been audited. So I'll get it all together and it'll all be journal entries done. So, but that's perfect. what I'll do.
That's what you're gonna do. I'll go through, I can dig stuff out of my equipment files and stuff, but
If you have
I'm
time
not going
afterwards,
through
I can-
7 years of records, I'm sorry.
Perfect, yeah,
Okay, thank you.
okay.
Could I just make a statement? As a previous board member, I was involved in the motion to approve having you do this, I'll call it a review, since I don't think it technically can be called an audit since you aren't a CPA. I voted for that, and I had reasons, because I felt whether the accounting was done correctly or not, as I was looking at the books, I had a hard time seeing monies that came in for specific purposes, as Bob has mentioned. Did it go out for its intended purpose? I had a hard time following that. So I'm looking forward, actually, to what you're intending to do and to really get things straightened out. I think everything needs to be documented more properly. That money that comes in for equipment needs to be spent on the equipment and needs to be documented. But then I think we may have made some mistakes regarding the reserve fund. And Steve, I hope later on you'll be discussing what you know about that.
I just don't believe that, I've been told all that stuff's illegal, and I don't believe by ORS it's illegal. What happened, especially if it's an established reserve fund.
I don't know what you're referring to, so.
Just money's being transferred in from an option levy into the reserve fund. The ORS says any tax, option levy, gift, donation, or anything can be put in reserve fund to be saved for capital equipment.
Yeah, and I haven't even got there. That's, you know, I'm doing.
And I know that that's gonna be
It'll,
later on.
right. But it will be really clear. And I know one thing in the profit and loss, when you do print, there's no carryover balance. You should look at your profit and loss and it should tell you what you got in the bank. And it doesn't. So there's just, yeah. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm sorry it's a big deal apparently, but I
I'm
hope
trying
it
to look
ends
back,
up good.
where did it come from? I'm trying to
What
look
was
back, where did it come from? I mean, who set this up? I don't know, I don't have a history of it.
It came from probably David Pinnacook, was through Wilson Airgood and
No, I mean our original, how we were doing our accounting, where did it come from? Who did it? Who set it up in the very first? Yeah, I was just asking, do we know?
It's been carried on forever.
Was it before Stuart Kramer? Who made the Excel spreadsheet that's not right?
well, Excel spreadsheet, that's just, the Excel spreadsheet that he has is not rocket science, that's from the Oregon Department of Revenue, and we all use it. We just tweak it to fit our own departments, big or small. Your QuickBooks first entry I found was 2003. And I just gotta figure out where Davidson got their beginning number.
So that probably would have been Stu in
So,
2003.
And I don't know that.
So the Excel
No.
budget that we have
Would have been Bob
printed,
Brown.
I
the
think,
Excel budget we have printed at the state is wrong.
for budget.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't see it as an Excel spreadsheet, pretty much they just see your budget. Your budget that is on your website, which is the one that you sent me, is not the one, those numbers do not match. You know, we talked about this, what was filed with the county. And what you do is when you adopt a budget, you make appropriations, which means I can spend that money for those things. Here's a good example. One of the line items in your last budget, which is what we got to do, was you have general fund, you have personnel services, materials and services, capital. In materials and services, there's a separate line item that says building expenses. Totally not okay. And so, you know, I've been working with, actually I'm working with Rebecca Hall right now because Exam's moved on. She's still in it, but she's moved on. Not out of the Department of Revenue, up. And we just have to get, we have to get it, and then in your budget that you have, there's a line which has the most money in it all. It says ending balance. Is that unappropriated ending balance? Like in your general fund? What is it? It's not appropriated for anything. You have to tell the people what you're spending the money for, and ending balance tells them nothing. So technically right now, you're gonna spend that money, not this budget.
Okay, what, the equipment fund or what, the reserve fund, what are you talking about?
Equipment fund.
There's, some of the past budgets have, some things up on the top of the budget that actually discuss all that, so maybe you need to get copies of those too. Because those were adopted by resolution by this board.
The budgets,
Yeah. That tell all that kind of stuff, so maybe, I found one of those the other day, so maybe I'll find it. And that's a problem, I don't know where, we're supposed to have a copy of everything that's here, and we don't, so.
That was the reason I asked you guys if the monies were in the budget, not in the bank account, but in the budget where they appropriated to pay someone. And you said, you can spend it on anything you want, is what your comment was.
No, I think
That's
I
not
said we
the
could
case.
figure out how to pay it.
No, that's not. I distinctly remember what you said, Bob, because I thought, well, that's not right, but you'll learn.
Right, Yvonne, we'll agree.
Okay. So,
Because
With
there is a
that-
professional services number in there,
and how
That-
much is in there? Five?
$5,200 I think it is.
And she's up to 65, possibly?
No, she's not up to
Possibly?
65, possibly. We'll worry about it when we get there.
Is what I'm saying, is we don't have that much money.
I prefer to have the service and know we're on good foundation and then figure out how to pay Susan than to not have Susan.
Well, I don't know if we can do that, Wendy. But you have to have it appropriated in the right spot. Unless you want to borrow out of the equipment fund, which we no longer have, the reserve fund, which we no longer have.
no, you have a reserve.
We still have it.
You have a reserve.
money out of
Just
that.
because your money's taken out and put in another bank account, don't mix up bank accounts with funds. Your bank accounts,
Budget.
yeah, you have two funds. And if you take that 200,000 roughly, and you put it in 10 bank accounts, you still have one fund. And it's still in there, and it's in there until you transfer it out.
Well, I thought you guys did.
No,
They put it
No,
in
we
an
haven't.
account.
no, it's still
No,
gonna
they didn't transfer it. So, anyway, stuff like that, and it just needs to be really, so right now, we just, the first step we want to do is the budget training, and that's just a little synopsis of budget, and then the SDAO, that little one is also printed in there, so you can keep it, and that you can just take home, is put out by special districts, official guide for public, what's it say? The guide for public officials.
Yes, elected officials.
Yeah, elected officials. It's really good.
Thank you.
And then the executive session, this is just stuff that I had, I put in there just because I thought you might want it. The executive session rules, the wording, and then the ORS, and then a little summary of Robert's Rules of Order that we use. And then policies, you can see there's nothing. But I can't call it by the wrong name. So, but yeah. So, anyway, are there any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Susan.
Okay.
Sorry you had to step into a hornet's nest.
Well, I'm sorry, but that hopefully will be good one more time.
Item D, I just want to submit that we need to pay these two insurance bills. So we just need to stick around, approve these and get them paid. And this is our new insurance for the liability and total coverage for the district, and also the fire department policies. Not workman's comp. Workman's comp doesn't come up until April.
That's when we get.
I think it is.
Basic page, July 1st.
So there, which ones are the fire department policy and the,
Yeah, it's the fire department policy, the accident and health, and the accidental death and dismemberment, and then the overall coverage policy for the district. So we've got two invoices. One is, let's see, actually there's three invoices. The accidental death and dismemberment, which is a 24-hour policy, is $328, and the life and accident for the firefighters is $1,053. And the total coverage policy is $6,546.
are you including those in the other bills tonight?
Pardon me?
Are you including those in the other bills to pay tonight?
Yes, we should pay these, so. I just hang one of those and then we'll go through what the other ones are. Shall we vote on that separately, and then we'll vote on the balance of the bills at the pay bills time?
Why not just?
Want to do them all together?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll skip right to the attorney's contract.
Post these people here.
What was that?
Sorry.
Oh, I thought you had a question, Jim. We have a, you can ask questions, it's okay. We have an acknowledgement and acceptance of terms agreement with Eileen Eakins. She was the highest recommended attorney from all the referrals we received, and she ended up being the least hourly rate, which was
Can
kind
you
of
spell
wonderful.
her name, please?
Eileen, first name Eileen, G, and then middle initial, Eakins, Eakins. And I'll just read them. Just so that everybody knows what we've got here. This letter defines the terms of our engagement. The scope of services I will provide includes general legal service and advice as needed by the district's board of directors and any authorized staff. This scope of services may be modified at any time upon our mutual agreement. My hourly rate is $200 per hour, including travel time, plus any expenses incurred such as filing fees, deposition charges, copying costs, postage, mileage, and related expenses. Generally, billing is based on actual attorney time spent in increments of 0.2 of an hour. Attorney letters required for annual audits are billed at a 1 hour minimum. Payment is due within 30 days on the date of invoice. Late payments may be subject to assessment of simple interest. Continued delinquencies may result in termination of legal services. I will bill you approximately monthly depending on the amount of work that was done on your file during the period of time. I will also advise you before I do any work that will substantially increase the amount of fees. No fee and cost deposit will be required at this time. However, if a legal matter arises that is likely to incur substantial legal fees and costs, such as litigation matters, I may ask for a deposit before proceeding with that matter. Enclosed with the letter is a form for you to sign and return to me indicating your acceptance of the terms described in this engagement letter. I look forward to working with you in the district. The acknowledgement and acceptance of terms document, basically it states, because she's done it with me, as the president, I, Bob Russell, am authorized to approve agreements on behalf of Lookingglass Rural Fire Protection District. I hereby acknowledge receipt of an engagement letter for legal services for the law offices of Eileen Eakins, LLC, dated February 11, 2014. On behalf of the district, I accept the terms described in the engagement letter and authorize Eileen Eakins to provide legal services to the district.
Question over here.
Oh, sorry.
Where did you dig this gym up, Bob? Where's she at?
Lake Oswego, is that what her address is?
Mm-hmm.
We had a dozen referrals. She rose to the top on pretty much everybody's list, and so that's where we started, and she accepted. So the second choice is a gentleman out of Klamath who is a very interesting attorney. He actually was a state patrolman for a number of years and then went back to law school and became an attorney. So he was our second choice. So need a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion, questions, comments? All those in favor of going ahead with Eileen Eakins, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Accountant's hiring status, I have a request into, Bruce?
Good joke.
Oops. Yeah. got a good referral on a CPA from Chief Greg Marlar, who is Doug 2 and Winston Dillard's chief now, and probably, if things go well, he might even be Sutherland's. He recommended this guy who, Steve, I'm not really sure how he pronounces this, I think it's Tushur, is that how you pronounce it? Okay. He's going to get back with me again tomorrow. I talked to his office manager today with a proposal to us to do exactly what we had talked about having, is somebody that will just take a look at our annual review, make sure that we're doing everything the way it should be done, and no more, no less. And if we need anything more than that, he'd be there for us to use. So I will report back to the board with that. Comments? Item G, district policy for equipment access capability. This is something we've been tossing around for quite some time, and I think we need to address it. I think we can table this for this evening just because we're running so far behind. This is something we don't have all the information on, so I would recommend that we table it.
I was prepared to discuss it real quickly, but if you don't want to.
Well, if you want to do it quick, we can sure take the time.
What I brought was the national standards for fire trucks, the National Urban Interface Code, which is adopted by the current Oregon Fire Code. This has all the access rules for the Oregon Fire Code, as far as bridges, streets, roads, trees, widths, everything. And that's the standard for access. That's all I can tell you. Now I'm trying to design some vehicles to be lighter weight and also do the Type 2, Type 4-wheel drive engine to make some access. That's where I'm going in the future with equipment. I'm not going to talk about that later. From what you said before, I know we've gone over this over and over, but the standard that your standard, or whatever that factor is that you're saying, the horse trailer and the pickup truck, it doesn't have anything to do with the access. It just doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, that's why I got the codes. I purchased these. They're going to be in our library, and you can read all about it.
Well, one of the things that we're trying to get to on this access deal is that people that have their place in existence is what do they have to make that work. I had a gentleman come to me the other day that got a price just for his driveway on his property out here was $180,000 just for the driveway. And so for everything, that was everything. That was engineering done, permits, etc. And he's got about a $250,000 budget for the house. So $180,000 that was going to driveway, makes for a pretty small house. I think what we need to do is we need to come up with something that's very common sense for people. You know, even if I'm not mistaken, this 1030 out here is 80,000 pounds loaded. How much?
Around
40,000. Okay. You know, that unit trying to get onto certain properties is probably won't even go across some culverts. And so all we've got to do is in our district is we've got to try and help out people that are here be able to live where they live the way that they live. And that philosophical comment there, if they can get a four-horse trailer being pulled by a crew cab truck into their property, I personally think we should have some kind of piece of fire equipment that can also get there. That's the only philosophy we've touched.
We do. We have a 1080. I took it up a four-wheel drive road to get to Buzzmore.
Well, that's true.
That's why I'm
only
trying to design a 400-gallon thing. The whole issue here is waterways, and the more water you need, which we have requirements about ISO, fire flow, everything else. So as far as the chief, I am not going to, in Oregon, after this March, the counties do not accept the Oregon Fire Code anymore. It's going to get implemented statewide. So I can't go against that code. I have the right by Oregon 478 to increase the code, but I cannot decrease it. So I'm not going to have a statement saying that we're going to reduce the access code. And actually, on the State Fire Marshal website, there's a really good question and answer about legally what is required. And I understand I got a 3,000-foot driveway that I keep rocked and trees trimmed and everything else. I don't have a mile long like some of these people. But it tells you the standard. And
well, I agree with you, we can't change the standard for new construction, we can't do that.
Well, actually, what I was trying to tell you, the state fire marshal shows that the fire code is a maintenance standard. The uniform building code goes back to the date the structure was built, but the fire code is a maintenance standard, and the decisions in court have been that you can require any on issues of access and fire protection to keep on current on the standards. Now, my problem is here in this valley is how I'm going to get some old timer up here on the road. Jesus, you got $100,000 of work like you're talking about. How are we going to do that?
Yeah.
Well, or how am I going to fix? There's an old timer's bridge right here on Lookingglass Road that I want to take these engines across and take the rescue and the 1080. Well, maybe I can get somebody to throw a culvert in and rock it for 'em or something. I don't know, do something. I mean, that's what. But
Those are the same conversations we're all having with ourselves, Steve.
right. But the code is the code.
The code's the code. But
That's all I'm
that,
going to say.
yeah. So we have to come up with something that helps the people that we serve here. That's all we've got to do.